Welcome back. Join me while I break down another movie plot. Enjoy the memories and watch out for spoilers. In the year 10,191, Princess Irulan tells us that the universe was once ruled by robotic titans until humans reclaimed it. People established training programs to gain psychic abilities in hopes of regaining their lost knowledge. The universe is dominated politically and economically by the rare spice melange, a chemical substance which extends the user's life and can greatly enhance certain psychic powers. The Galactic Spacing Guild, and its alien leaders called navigators, use the spice to fold space and safely guide interstellar ships to any part of the universe instantaneously. Without their ability to do this and the spice used as their fuel source, the thinly spread human race would lose all intergalactic travel and trade. The spice can only be obtained on the desert planet of Arrakis, known to the inhabitants as Dune. The nomadic people called the Fremen survive in the harsh conditions and have developed blue eyes from prolonged ingestion of the spice. They worship sandworms growing up to 500 meters long as manifestations of God, and prophesize the coming of a messiah from another world that will lead them out of oppression. The movie begins with a guild navigator being sent as an emissary to the planet Khatain, where the emperor of the known universe sends his advisor Helen away to speak in private. Helen is the reverend mother of a psychic order called the Bene Gesserits and sits some yards away telepathically listening in. Shaddam IV shares his plans in secret to destroy one of the other noble houses called the Atreides. The popularity of their leader Duke Leto has grown substantially and the paranoid ruler fears him as a threat to his throne. Shaddam suspects the Duke's new army is planning to overthrow him with their use of sonic weapons called weirding modules, which they could easily do so. He expresses his plan to give House Atreides control of the planet Dune, which he knows he won't refuse due to its value. Then have them ambushed by their longtime enemies the Harkonnens, a house who has ruled Arrakis and the Fremen for centuries through cruelty. The navigator accepts the Emperor's request but also commands he kill the Duke's son Paul, a young protege who dreams prophetic visions of the future. Helen overhears the orders and goes with the sisterhood to the Atreides' homeworld of Caladan, planning to meet with Paul as he is a product of their centuries-long breeding program. Inspired by the Fremen belief, the Bene Gesserits breed together selected people seeking to produce the superhuman messiah they call the Kwisatz Haderach. Paul sits alone in his room on Caladan wondering why the Harkonnens would give up their hold on a powerful asset like Arrakis. 3 of his father's associates enter with Paul's mentor Gurney carrying around his balisette. He dons a Holtzman shield and attacks Paul to prepare him for his coming-of-age trials. The two battle to a stalemate, then discuss Paul's amazing abilities with Dr. Yu. A human computer called a mentat named Thufir tells them that whatever reason the Harkonnens have for fleeing the planet, they'll be able to handle with their new weirding modules. Paul's handed one and trains against a robot before easily defeating it. On his way to his father, Paul passes Duncan Idaho, who says he's going down to Arrakis early and he will meet him there. Leto tells Paul how proud he is to hear from Thufir that in 3 generations of training warriors, Paul's the best. He says to his son not to be upset about leaving as everyone must experience new things in life. Paul's mother Lady Jessica is also a member of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood and serves as Duke Leto's concubine, though she fell in love with him and willingly gave him a male heir. Despite the sisterhood breeding males in hopes of finding the chosen one, Jessica was given the task of bearing Leto a daughter in hopes of wedding her to the Harkonnens and breaching the house divide. They seek Paul out to test if he could possibly be the Kwisatz Haderach, where Helen is already impressed by his ability to resist her mind control powers. She tells Paul about the saliva from the sandworms that the Fremen call the water of life, which no man except the Kwisatz Haderach can drink and survive. With a cyanide-tipped needle called a gom jabbar at his throat, Paul is forced to place his hand inside a box to take the test. It subjects him to excruciating pain, but he manages to resist the urge to withdraw his hand, passing having endured more pain than anyone before him. Meanwhile, on the industrial Harkonnen homeworld of Gedi Prime, the sadistic Baron discusses his plans with his mentat Peter. He assigns his nephews Robin and Fade the task of crushing House Atreides after they have assumed control of the planet. A doctor lovingly maintains the diseases that grow within the Baron while he speaks of a traitor within House Atreides, though doesn't say who or when they will strike. After organizing its entire fleet and making their way to the Navigator, the Atreides army gets directed across the galaxy to Dune. They arrive at the capital city of Arrakeen and exit their ships to the blistering sun. Inside the main compound, Leto is informed by Duncan that he believes the Fremen exist in larger numbers than they lead on, and that they could prove to be powerful allies as he suspects them the real rulers of the planet. Paul and Leto meet with a blue-eyed spice miner named Dr. Kynes, who inspects their still suits to find that despite never wearing one before, Paul has fashioned it as if he were Fremen himself. They travel with Gurney by aircraft across the desert, while Kynes answers Paul's questions that the Fremen defend the spice with their life, though he lies and says no one knows their relationship with it. They reach a remote mining vehicle where a sandworm is only 8 minutes away, but the rescue ship for the workers was never a priority and placed by House Harkonnen. Faced with little time, Leto orders the giant crawler evacuated and they pile the workers onto his shuttle. The facility gets attacked and destroyed along with all of their profits, but Leto has earned the trust of Dr. Kynes, who sees that he cared more about the men than the spice. During the night, an assassin sends a small robot called a hunter-seeker to kill Paul in his room. He stands perfectly still as it searches for movement, then smashes it to save an entering Fremen housekeeper named Sydow. In traditional Fremen fashion, she pays the debt back by warning Paul of a traitor within the house, though she doesn't know who, as Dr. Yu is shown to be hiding a secret from Jessica, though his training prevents her reading his mind. The city's locked down, but the army is yet to be fully trained on how to use the weirding modules. As Leto is out by himself, he discovers Sydow poisoned before being incapacitated by the Baron's traitor himself. He plans to get revenge on the Baron for the death of his wife, and places a poison capsule in Leto's tooth for him to bite down on in the Baron's presence. The Harkonnens launch their attack on House Atreides as the defenses are deactivated, and despite anticipating a trap, Gurney and the army are unable to withstand the slaughter. During the battle, Duncan takes on swarms at a time but is eventually shot and killed, while Yu is stabbed in the back by Peter and dies cursing the Baron's name. Jessica is now pregnant with Leto's child and is to be fed alongside her son to sandworms as suggested by Yu, but it was just in a final act of defiance against the Baron as he has left them still suits in the shuttle. Paul uses his psychic abilities to convince a guard to ungag his mother, and the more powerful psychic persuades him to kill the other. During Leto's assassination attempt, he hallucinates the Baron and accidentally wastes the poison, killing Peter and himself. Jessica and Paul both mentally feel this and crash into a sand dune, before escaping into the deep desert on foot, as the Baron looks on at a world free of Atreides. The Baron's head of security, Captain Nefud, takes over duties as the Baron's aide. Dr. Kynes is abandoned in the desert to die. Thufir is forced to direct the flow of spice for the Harkonnens in order to receive an antidote each day for a poison in his system, while Robin becomes governor of Dune. Paul and Jessica use a device called a thumper to draw the attention of a sandworm, just long enough for them to race it across the desert and make it to a ruined temple. Once the worm gives up the chase, they find a band of Fremen led by Stilgar. Jessica shows to be a greater warrior than even their leader, so they are accepted while wishing to learn more from them. The Fremen think that Paul's the leader they have been waiting for, so they reveal the secret of the planet, thousands of caches of water hidden away just waiting to change the face of Arrakis, whether it be to destroy the spice or otherwise. Jessica enters the trials to become a reverend mother. She drinks the water of life and endures the spice agony, causing her to go into premature labor. She gives birth to her daughter Alicia, who already has blue eyes and possesses all knowledge imparted by the water. Addressing thousands of Fremen warriors, Paul tells them that he will turn Arrakis into the center of the universe, and he begins to fall in love with the late Dr. Kynes' daughter Chani. Recreated with blueprints that was smuggled along with the still suits, Paul takes 100 of the best fighters to teach how to use the weirding modules. Against an obelisk harder than stone, he shatters it with his voice, telling them that with it you can paralyze nerves, set fires, even suffocate your enemies with the right frequency. Stilgar has 15 of the best warriors act as Paul's personal guard and begins to teach him to ride his first sandworm, an act the Fremen easily accomplish with grappling hooks and a lot of balls. With an army at his side, Paul begins targeting the Spacing Guild's mining operations and for the next 2 years, completely halts the export of spice, while Alicia and her powers rapidly grow. During the war, Paul crosses paths with his former mentor Gurney, who surrenders and immediately joins the Fremen to continue the good fight. Back on Katayn, the guild warns the Emperor that he must intervene in the matters, so Shaddam orders 50 legions to be sent with the command of exterminating all life on Dune. The guild fear Paul will take the water of life, so despite warnings not to, he goes into the desert and drinks it, before entering a saliva coma. Sandworms burst forth, but they don't attack and instead surround them. Paul gains the ability to see the future and the present, seeing the invasion fleet amassing above Arrakis ready to regain control. He awakens literally and figuratively with complete control of the sandworms of Arrakis. Addressing the Fremen army once more, he says an enormous sandstorm's coming that'll provide the perfect opportunity to take back their planet, as it renders the enemy airships useless. The entire army pours out onto the surface, and with hundreds of thumpers they attract dozens of sandworms. The Baron greets the Emperor on his arrival and is shocked at seeing Robin's severed head at his feet, having been executed for his failures as governor. Walking straight past the guards and up to the Emperor, Alicia delivers the message that her brother is coming for them. The Fremen launch their final attack against the capital using atomics to blast out a wide section of the shield. Paul leads the raiding party riding through the breach, and they begin to slaughter the Harkonnen defenses. During the conflict, a side of the Emperor's palace is destroyed, as Alicia slashes the Baron with her Gom Jabbar, sending him into spasms before flying out the hole and into the maw of a sandworm. After a climactic and fierce battle with heavy casualties on both sides, Paul and the Fremen warriors finally defeat the Emperor's legions. The victors confront the Emperor and his fellow losers in the palace. Helen's powers are now completely useless against Paul, but just his words weaken her. He notices the final Harkonnen and challenges the psychotic Fade to a knife fight, which he happily accepts. Fade would have been the one to wed Paul had Jessica followed orders and given birth to a girl, so he has held some resentment. After a short but brutal fight in which Fade is shown to be a biter, Paul hip tosses him to the ground while stabbing him through the neck. He then uses his vocals to explode his insides, showing that he no longer even needs to use the weirding module. Paul relieves the Emperor of power, announcing a new era of peace for all of humanity. Storm clouds gather and it begins raining on Arrakis for the first time in the planet's existence, as Alia declares Paul the true Kwisatz Haderach. And the movie ends.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
So you made it. I appreciate your time. I couldn't have done it without you. Tell your mother I said thanks.